Hello, welcome to UFC 280 podcast presented by LineStar. Once again, I'm here with Chris Guy. I am Tyler Wiemann. Let's go.
Epic card.
It is such a good one.
It's been a little while, so
It has been a
it's
while.
a good one to come back on.
We got Oliveira. We have Islam. We have Dillashaw.
Dillashaw's back.
Yep, we got Sterling. It's an epic card from top to bottom. First of all, thank you for joining our YouTube page here. Please like, subscribe, comment. Helps us very much to keep these shows going. And without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So the big question everybody's waiting for is, who are you wanting to jump?
I was thinking about this the whole time, the whole way over here too. And you know what? Honestly, this is like the first time that I probably choose no one.
Oh boy.
But just for the sake of it, if I had to just like test myself, just to see as like a regular Joe, how long I'd last, I'd go with Wiemann and Makhachev.
Oh boy.
Test my takedown defense.
Yeah.
If I could keep it on my feet, things would get really interesting. Which is how this fight's gonna go too.
I like it. You have called out some people pretty much every time we've done one of these shows. The fact that you don't want to call anybody out shows the strength of this card.
Heavy grappling card. There's a lot of grapplers here. That's not quite my forte, even though I do dabble. There's a lot of killer grapplers on this card. Like, this is crazy. This is like man's worst fear. Get into a fight, a guy gets on top of you, and you can't do anything about it. That's it. The whole card of this.
Yep. It's going to be an interesting one. All right, so let's start to the first fight of the night. We have Karol Rosa versus Lina Länsberg. How do you see this one playing out here?
Look, Lina Länsberg was a tough little killer back in the day. I think she's a little bit past her prime right now. She's got a lot of wear and tear on her. Her style is unlike anything that you'll see. Very few fighters fight like her. She almost exclusively has to fight from the clinch. So she likes to be in the tie clinch. She likes to have a collar tie. She has to be real close to you, hold you up against the cage. But the problem is when you have a fighter who can keep their distance, stay away, and keep it a kickboxing match, she's going to struggle. She averages less than 3 strikes per minute and about a half a takedown per 15 minutes in the octagon. So the stats really aren't there against a high output fighter like Karol Rosa. Karol Rosa's got some nasty striking. She averages almost 7 significant fights per minute. So she's a high output fighter. She's going to come forward. She's got heavy leg kicks. The question is, if Lina can get it to the ground, what Karol Rosa, her weakness that she's shown so far in her UFC career is off her back in her takedown defense. So, but it's going to be hard for Lina to get it.
So one of the interesting things that I saw here with this fight on Prize Picks, the line for Lina Rosa takedowns was 1.5. Do you think she can get over there?
I don't think so. I think she can maybe get one early in the fight. Lina can get one earlier in the fight, but I mean, she's going to take damage on the feet in order to get there. Maybe she can grind it out. She's going to have to, she doesn't necessarily even have to get takedowns to win fights. Yeah. She's fine just holding you up against the cage, tie clinching you, elbowing you, just making things really dirty. But if she does get the top, her top control was nasty. But I don't know. I think as the fight goes on, you typically see less likely that fighters get the fight to the ground. It gets harder and harder for them to do. So I think 1.5, man, that's close. I would play the under on that. I think Karol Rosa is gonna damage her a lot on the feet. It's gonna be hard.
That 1.5 line was actually for Rosa takedowns.
Oh, for her to get takedowns. She doesn't average very many takedowns. I would say no on that. She's her style. She's not gonna want to clinch with this.
She's gonna want to keep it standing.
100%.
Her line with that is 73.5 significant strikes.
Yeah, she's a bruiser on the feet. She's got really heavy hands, really heavy kicks. She just kind of sometimes she just doesn't have the technical, like real savvy stuff. So against better strikers, she struggles, but she's a far better striker than Lina Länsberg.
All right, so you like that Karol Rosa here?
Yeah.
There is a little ownership on her. She's almost 30% owned, but I like her.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so our next fight tonight, we have Wiemann Makhachev versus Malcolm Gordon. Out of all the ones you're going to call out, it's Muhammad, huh?
That GSP voice, I am not impressed. Listen, he came out, he had that first fight where he came out and got a flying knee and won in a couple seconds. I never put much stock into those kind of things because it happens so quickly. It's just, one of those things, you get caught, it happens. His second fight out, that's where we got to see a lot about Makhachev because he fought 3 rounds. Short notice guy, a guy came in, I think Charles Johnson from the LFA. I think he was the champion. Came in, displayed some great takedown defense, made Makhachev work for everything he had. Now, Makhachev, held him up against the cage, was a dominant win, but at the same time, this makes sense. It was dominant, but not dominant at the same time.
He couldn't finish him.
He couldn't finish him. He didn't do a whole lot of damage. That was the most important thing. He controlled, but he didn't create damage while he was there. It was more of like a position over submission type of performance from him. So I kind of was like, I don't know. Malcolm Gordon's he's faster, he's longer, he's got better striking than Johnson had in the last fight. The takedown defense, is that going to be there? The problem with Malcolm against a guy like this is, keeping your distance and being able to get off the fence. When you saw Makhachev get that fight in the clinch up against the cage, no matter what Johnson did, he could not get his back off of that cage. No matter what he tried.
Yeah.
He get dumped back down, get back up, dump back down, get back up, but he could never get distance to score any strikes.
And that's really the points, how Makhachev scores points, is he just gets takedowns and he hammers them, gets that control time. With that, he's a huge favorite in this. Do you think that Gordon has a chance?
He's minus 1,400. Like that's like if he fought me, he should be minus 1,400. I think it's a lot. I mean, he's fighting a professional fighter who has some good experience in here. I think it's much closer than that. They have Malcolm. I think they just closed at plus 775. Now I'm not saying Malcolm Gordon is going to win the fight because it's going to be very hard for him to be able to create enough space to get some work in. It's constantly, he's not going to be able to he's going to have to knock him out. That's his only way he can do it. It's going to be very hard to knock him out. But he can make it very interesting. Without a finish, Makhachev is, in an early finish, as you always like to point out, being that high, you have to get like a first-round finish to really justify. I don't see, if there's a crazy wild scramble, maybe he gets his neck.
Yeah. I mean, if he's able to have, what did he have this last fight? It's like 10 takedowns or something, 12 takedowns. If he's able to do that again, his scoring is going to be fine because that's just racking up points.
And that's
points.
just putting your butt on the mat.
Yeah.
So he pops back up, that's a takedown. So all he has to do is put your butt on the mat, really.
Exactly. He does have to try and do something. It can't just be like touching up, but yes. So that, I
expect much of the same. I almost think this is going to look like the exact same fight as that last one.
To your point, his last fight, 3 rounds, only 29 thrown strikes,
the whole
but
time.
12 takedowns.
So what's he doing the whole time?
He's just control. It was 11 minutes and 44 seconds of control time.
And most of that was against the cage.
Yes.
Just holding him against the cage. So when you have something like that, it's a guy who just doesn't want to lose position. He's so afraid to let one arm go so he can land that it stifles his whole offense because he's terrified, probably to strike.
Yeah.
So his striking, he came out and won that first one with a flying knee. You didn't really get to see his striking. His striking is just swing. Ask questions later. that's pretty much it.
So Muhammad is a hugely owned. It looks like he's going to be like 53% on DraftKings. He is one of the highest priced fighters of the slate. With his low output striking, everything just going on his takedowns, do you think he can get there? Do you think he's going to be able to score enough? We doubt that he's able to end the fight within a round.
I really doubt that's going to happen.
So,
I can see him scoring those takedowns. Like you said, your point was perfect, is that he's going to keep getting those takedowns because all he has to do when he's going to hold somebody against the cage is, like I said, just suck his butt out from there. He hits the ground. He gets a takedown just for a second. He pounces back up. So that's where his value is going to be. Malcolm Gordon, 14-5 record, been finished all 5 times, but only once by submission. He's a scrappy, really athletic dude. So, the last one, I think I could see him getting the distance. I actually played a submission, I think. I think Makhachev, because of that last, what we're talking about, that last performance, I think he's going to come out a little different. I think he can come out and really focus on trying to finish the fight. I think he's going to take a little bit of criticism like we're giving him, and he's going to try to turn it up. So that's what I'm betting on. But I like Malcolm Gordon, just hanging around. Who knows? He's got fast hands.
Yeah. It's an interesting little spot there.
I think it's closer than the odds.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Well, the odds it's further odds than we've seen in I don't know how long here. It's crazy odds, which also goes to why Makhachev is so high owned. He is likely to win this.
Yeah.
With how much takedowns he gets, with the control time, he scores decently. So I get why people are going there here, but
I think some of these other guys you might be able to cover what he's going to do without a finish. If he's not going to get a finish, you might be able to find some guys somewhere else. Like we'll talk about here with these guys coming up.
Yeah, this next fight's an interesting one as well. We have Armen Petrosyan versus AJ Dobson.
Armen Petrosyan, man, this dude is a savage. Like, this guy throws hands like nothing but combinations. This is your worst nightmare meeting in a back alley somewhere behind Buca de Beppo. This dude is nasty. I forgot that he lost to Caio Borralho, but he has a win over Gregory Rodriguez, which I actually thought Gregory Rodriguez won. I thought Gregory Rodriguez got robbed. He hurt Petrosyan, but it was a war. That fight was a war. He hurt Petrosyan, and he had his back briefly in the third round of that fight. But he did get the win against Gregory Rodriguez, who's now 7-1, who's killing people. I mean, this guy's high on the rise. He's got a win on the Contender Series. He ran into Caio Borralho, who's fighting on this card also. That guy's just a killer. I mean, his ground game is nasty. His back game is nasty. So you can't really take much away from that. This is a striker's delight right here. AJ Dobson, I don't know a whole lot about him. I've seen his debut, and I've seen some of his fights on YouTube. He's got really good hands. He's got really good power. He has really crafty takedown defense that I haven't seen. Not that Petrosyan is really going to try to get it there. I think these guys are going to stand and bang. I like Petrosyan. I think he's a more technical fighter. I think his output is just too much. I mean, his damage that he causes over the course of 15 minutes, and just not knowing a whole lot about AJ Dobson. But I think Dobson definitely has a chance to win this fight because he's got serious power in his hands. He throws perfect combinations with his hands and his feet, so he can knock you out with his legs. He can knock you out with his hands. 6-1, 5 finishes, 3 KOs, 2 submissions. That's probably going to come from creating a fight-ending sequence on the feet. He lost to Jacob Malkoun in his debut, but Jacob Malkoun is just a nasty wrestler.
Killer.
Nasty wrestler. He's gonna just stay stuck on you the whole time. So that was a tough one to debut against. That's one of those style matchups that just wasn't in his favor. This one, I mean, he can stand and bang. So the big thing is experience. Is at the top level. Petrosyan's already been there. He's doesn't have many more fights on his career, 7-2 career record, but he's been in there with killers already.
Yeah, I mean, beating the Brazilian Debos.
The Brazilian Debo. That dude
good
was,
notch on your list there.
Bricks in his hands, throwing them like Craig. So yeah, I mean, but I like take a chance. That's my bike. What bike? AJ Dobson. I mean, I don't know he's probably a low owned guy.
He is low owned. He's coming in right around 15%.
Got a chance to KO this. He's got really heavy hands. And Petrosyan, he's not so much a defensive fighter as his defense is his offense. So he's going to put himself in the line of fire. He was hurt against Brazilian Debo several times in that fight.
Yeah, and what we do see a lot of these times in these fights where there is a guy so explosive, just trying to move forward, is there's output on both sides.
You have to defend yourself
with
strikes. I mean, the best way to defend yourself is a strike. That's why you see guys taking a lot of strikes against the cage and they're just covering up. Then they start throwing. That's how you get off the cage. You don't just stay covered up. Totally. You only get off with offense. So offense can, be your best defense. If you stay
covered up, you're just a punching bag.
Just get knocked out.
Nobody wants that.
No. Move. You'll hear them. Move.
All right. So we'll go on to the next fight here. We have... Oh, boy. These are some tough names. I'm going to defer to you on this one because you can nail them.
Abubakar Nurmagomedov and Gadzi Omar Gadziev. This is a grappler's delight. The names say it all. You got EV versus OV. This is like,
Oh, yeah. Those are those Russian names you don't want to mess with.
Never want to mess
with.
Old
USSR region.
Just throw you, suplex you, throw you out of the cage. This one, I picked Abubakar to win this fight, but I've gone back and forth on this one. I don't know. I watched some of Abubakar's fights before this. He has a real extensive background. I mean, he fought in I believe the PFL. He fought in the PFL before he came over to the UFC, and he had some fights. His debut, he actually lost to David Zawada. He got caught in a triangle choke on the first in the first round. So that was a surprise. He has a couple losses where you're kind of like, scratching your head, but he's 16-3 overall. came back against Jared Gooden, who's a really good striker, heavy striker, scored some takedowns. And actually his boxing looked really good. I was really impressed. It's definitely in this matchup with Godzi, Abubakar definitely has the more technical hands. He can probably engage in a more technical kickboxing match because what you have here is two real grapplers. Omar Gadzhiev is 100% grappler. On the feet, he's a swinger. I mean, he's not like conference rooms and stuff like that. Like he just throws hands, and he just wings them like overhand. His only purpose of throwing hands is to close the distance, grab you, take you down to the ground. And when he gets on top of you, I think he's one of those few strikers whose striking is better on the mat than it is on the feet. He can land heavy bombs. But when he's on the feet, that's what's going to be a problem. You have guys, two grapplers, what often happens, there's a stalemate there. Either early, right from the beginning, right from the jump, and the whole fight is a kickboxing match, or at some point, the takedown well dries up and they just start kickboxing from that point. That could very well happen here, and that's why I went with Abubakar. I'll probably stick with him because I think he has the more technical striking on the feet. But I mean, Gadzhiev, man, this dude is a killer on the ground, and he's one of those guys you were talking earlier about takedown after takedown after takedown. That's the Khabib mentality. That's Khabib wrestling right there. No matter what happens, whether they defend it, get back to their feet, dump them back on their butt, and keep going, rinse and repeat. He's gonna do that. So this is gonna be one of those low output. You're gonna have to rely on, if it does go to the ground, on control time. Finishing, I think one of these guys can get finished for sure. If Abubakar can keep it on the feet. And listen, he's got, I don't want to say like he doesn't have his own ground game, because he does, especially from the top control, but he's been subbed. I've seen him in a couple of his recent fight. He was subbed with a triangle, and he was subbed, I think it was a rear naked choke. So, he's submittable. And Omar Gadzhiev, this dude, his takedowns and his ground and pound. He actually has 8 TKO KOs and only 3 submissions, but that's from ground and pound. That's not from standing and knocking people. I mean, he can do that because his heavy hands, but he's going to be a ground fight. Yeah,
this is an interesting fight. I mean, altogether, the ownership is 24% with both fighters. That is a combined 24%.
You got to have
nobody's going there.
Have one of these guys. Flip a coin on it, because I mean, this is one of the toughest fights on here to read, just because of who's going to have the grappling. You don't really. The hard thing is when you judge striking, there's usually a tell one way or other. You're like, this guy's got the edge. With grappling, it's harder until you actually see them locked up. Who has the strength? Who can power? Who has the technique and stuff like that? Who's able to get the takedowns? Who's got the better? Gadzhiev was not good off his back. The knock on him in his debut, he fought Kyle Baralio. Kyle has wins against 2 guys on this card. He took Gadzhiev's back. Gadzhiev was the one that got the takedowns. He ended up getting reversed on both of those times, and then he got his back taken for like 2 entire rounds. So his ground game from his back is iffy. So if Nurmagomedov can get there, get that top position, who knows? But definitely have one of these guys, because I think there's a good chance at a finish for one of them. TKOs, submissions, both of them have them. They can finish you either way.
Nice. All right, we'll go to our next fight. Then we got Volkan Ozdemir versus Nikita Krylov.
That's a cool name.
That is a good one. That's a really good fighting name.
It sounds like
too.
paint. Isn't there a paint like Krylov or something?
Yeah.
It sounds like. So this is a striker versus grappler. This is all or nothing with Nikita Krylov. This guy's got crazy stats. He's 28-9 with 27 finishes. That's crazy. And he's been in the UFC for a while. So he has 15 submissions and 12 TKO KOs. A lot of those. He does have some on the feet, but a lot of those are on the ground too. He's a guy like Gadzhiev with a little better striking, but and submission grab bag. I mean, this guy's got subs everywhere. He's been in some of he lost to Paul Craig. He got submitted against Paul Craig after he was absolutely annihilating Paul Craig in that first round with heavy ground and pound. He got over aggressive, got caught in the triangle. He has a loss to Ankalaev, who's probably going to fight for a title pretty soon. Go watch him. If you want to get ready for this fight, go watch Nikita Krylov versus Glover Teixeira, our guy Glover. This is one of the most technical grappling matches you'll see between 2 big guys like this. So he's only lost to really good fighters. He's been in the UFC for a while, since 2018. More losses than wins, but I mean, he's killer be killed. I like if he can get the fight to the ground early. the upside for him is an early finish, early submission. Volkan Oezdemir from his back, he's got like an infant's guard. He's terrible. He's not very good. His takedown defense is actually okay. He can keep it there, but if he gets taken down, he's not getting back up. That round's pretty much done. But the striking, he's got stupid power. Oezdemir has that awkward, weird power. He fought for a title, fought Daniel Cormier for a title. So he's been in there with the absolute best. And I gave him the edge because I think Krylov is working with a window in which he can get this done. And that's always tough when you have like a small window to try to get it, because eventually the takedowns aren't going to be there. Yeah. Because he's going to take some damage in the process of getting it. So like around the 2.5, 3 rounds, it's going to be hard. And so if it does go that long, he's going to have a hard time standing with a guy like Oezdemir. So Oezdemir late, Krylov early is how I have it. I think there's a good chance of getting, almost positive that something's going to have to give. This is one of those fights that's going to have a finish. Have one of these guys on your roster, because Volkan, the upside for Nikita, early submission. Upside for Volkan, late TKO, KO, if he can keep it on his feet and get that far. But let's see, he's been subbed twice in his career, Volkan Oezdemir. He's been in the UFC for a long time.
Nice. All right, we'll keep it on moving here. So we have Mervidov versus your boy Borello.
This dude's a kill. This is a crazy fight.
This is a good one.
Mahmoud Muradov. This dude's a savage on the feet. He's all feet. His last fight was a head scratcher. He fought Gerald Meerschaert, and he actually got outstruck by Gerald Meerschaert, which was kind of crazy. And then he got finished in the second round with a submission with a rear naked. But before that, I mean, go watch another fight. You got homework today before you get.
With that, real quick, Meerschaert looked way different that fight.
Never seen him strike like that.
Yeah, he was totally different. Losing to that Meerschaert is much different than what we've seen in the past.
Good point, because I'd never seen Meerschaert land right hands like that. He was crispy with his hands, his boxing. He was just landing right hand. It's almost like he found like the timing perfect. Like it just everything lined up for him.
Something clicked.
And he smoked him, and he's definitely a better grappler, Meerschaert. So once he knocked him down and got him to the ground, it was just over. Yeah. Not a bad loss. Gerald Meerschaert has wins and losses and stuff, but that's a tough fighter, for sure. But go watch him fight. Go watch Mahmoud fight Andrew Sanchez and watch that knockout. It was scary. This guy throws from his waist. He throws from his hands. A lot like Gadzhiev, but a little more technical. But his hands are always low. When you have low hands, it's you can generate a lot more power. You can land from different angles. That's what makes it different. You can't just come in here and cover up like this because you're going to get hit from the sides. You can't just cover up like this. You come down the middle. So it's very tough. He just wings them. So he's got heavy striking, KO power, one-punch KO power. But Kyle Borralho, this guy, Kyle Borralho, I didn't know what to make of this guy coming in, but now that I've seen him, he beat Armen Petrosyan. Dominated Gadzhi. He's Lyoto Machida, the new version of Lyoto Machida, I'm going out on a limb here. I'm going to say he's better version of Lyoto Machida. His striking, he's got the karate style striking with the side kicks and all that, and the leaping, like when you have karate, they more like explode into the pocket with quick strikes and then jump back out. So it's a lot of in-out style. But the crazy part about this guy is his ground game. Once he gets you on the ground, man, you cannot get back up. Especially his back takes are nasty.
So his line on Prize Picks for takedowns is 2.5.
I like it because that's going to be his. Because he fought another striker in Armen Petrosyan, and his whole game plan was clinch, drag him to the mat, and that's what it's going to be against Mahmoud. This guy, the power is going to go to Mahmoud. Not that Kyle Borralho say he can't get the fight to the ground. The striking is going to be very interesting. He's a far more technical striker, and he has like a special move. This guy likes to fade back. Mahmoud's a guy who likes to come forward, and he always just comes straight ahead, winging punches. Kyle Borralho, one of his best counters, he likes to fade back, draw you in, and as soon as you're committed to those punches, flying knee. And he lands this thing over and over again. He'll throw it multiple times in a fight, and it's not just some flashy, ESPN highlight reel, top 10 thing. he lands it at a high rate, like almost every time. He draws you right into it. So it's going to be interesting on the feet if he catches Muradov being a little too aggressive. But I think Kyle Baraglio, I like the 2 takedowns. I like over on the 2 takedowns. I think he's going to try to trip him, get him down to the mat. Possible finish, but Baraglio, the knock against him, not a big finisher. 12-1. Well, he's had 7, 4 KOs, 3 submissions, but I think he's just going to top control. I've seen him, he's kind of played a more safe from the ground. He's more reckless and more going for the win on the feet than he really is on the ground. He's more just kind of control, and if you make a mistake, he'll take advantage of it. But if you don't, well, he'll ride out the round. But Muradov, hey, he's a good coin flip type of fighter because he could change the whole thing with just a KO. I mean, he could definitely KO Kyle Baraglio because he's got that kind of power.
Yeah. So the favorite, you're going with Baraglio, but
definitely value.
Yeah.
Definitely value on Muradov.
I like it. Now things start getting real interesting right here. We have Belal Muhammad versus Sean Brady.
This is crazy. It's not on the main card right now.
I know. I am shocked it's not, but it is the headliner of the prelims.
Yeah, which is a good spot.
Get some fireworks. Try and get some few more people to buy that pay-per-view.
And here's the thing for Belal. Belal was looking his fight that he was angling for, and I thought his next fight was going to be Chimaev, but before Chimaev ended up getting the Diaz fight that fell through. But the fight that they were trying to make, it sounded like, was Belal Muhammad versus Chimaev, which is crazy. Which, by the way, they're saying Chimaev versus Colby Covington. Whew. Lest we digress. Belal versus Sean Brady, wrestler versus wrestler. This is like Olympic gold medal match wrestling right here. So right off the bat, this is, of all the other ones, this is probably the biggest one where it could just end in a stalemate and they're on their feet, striking. If that's the case, I think Belal Muhammad's boxing, he's got a lot more wrinkles to his boxing.
A lot more output, too.
Higher output. He uses angles, different hand positions. He moves. He's awkward. It's hard to get a read on the feet. Sean Brady's just a wrestler striker. He got a big right hand, big left hook, and pretty much that's wrestling striking right there. Yeah. And in that order, 1s, 1-2s on the feet. The real thing is, Sean Brady's a grappler. Through and through, 15-0. I actually thought he lost his first UFC. I thought he lost his debut to Court McGee. Go watch that fight. Court McGee is a savage. That was a great fight. That was actually his toughest fight in the UFC so far. He dominated Michael Chiesa, who's another grappler, in his last fight. Just a lot of top control. He's kind of a lot like we've been discussing. Gets the top position, not really willing to relinquish it and risk relinquishing it with heavy ground and pound. So it's going to be another. He's not going to submit. He's not going to finish Belal Muhammad. It's just not going to happen. Could Belal? I don't think Belal Muhammad, he's not a finisher either. He's not going to finish Sean Brady. So this got split decision written all over it one way or the other. Who's got is there a low ownership? Is Belal?
Belal's a little lower owned, 18% to Brady's 31%.
Yeah, Belal's a good look because if Belal, I think he has the striking to more implement his grappling. You know what I mean? Because he can strike and then get your hands up and then go down. I don't know if Sean Brady can get the respect with his hands to get a guy like Belal Muhammad to the ground. If you saw him fight Damian Maia, Belal versus Damian Maia, that is the greatest display of takedown defense you'll ever see in a fight, was Belal Muhammad stuffing every single one of Damian Maia's takedowns. It's going to be very hard for either one of these guys to get takedowns. I'm looking at this, I'm like, I don't know how either one of them gets to the ground. So I'm thinking in my head, it's a stand-up fight. I give Belal Muhammad the edge on that. I'm taking the dog Belal Muhammad.
Nice. I like
That's
it.
What I'm taking.
Do you think that Muhammad has the power to really make Brady worry about the hands, though?
He's got the leg kicks.
Okay.
If you who he fought, he's got really serious leg kicks that he can implement. And then he comes over the top. So he starts chopping your leg down, and he can come over with those hooks and stuff. If this was to end in a finish, I would say maybe. But Belal Muhammad doesn't really have any real TKOs on the ground.
Yeah.
But I just think he's more technical. I think he can land more.
Cool.
And he's going to have more output.
Now we get to the main card. We'll take this time once again. Please like, subscribe. Tell us, if you like the picks, put your picks on wax.
Put them on wax.
And we'll keep it going here.
Don't come at us without you putting yours on wax first.
I like it.
Now
we have a girl that you are a big fan of. Manning Farriot and Caitlin, what is it,
Chukagian. Yeah, I mean, we here at LineStar, we were the first to put Manafiero on display here from her debut. I saw it from the moment I looked at her like regional fights and stuff like that. Her fights coming up. She's a killer. She reminds me of Holly Holm before Holly Holm like. You lost confidence in her striking. Like she's got that bladed karate style, in out, heavy output. I mean, she just throws combinations. So does Chukagian. But I think the power advantage is going to go to Manafiero. The wrinkle in Fiero's game is her takedowns. She looks like a purebred striker, just straight striking, but she's got excellent takedowns from the clinch and the trips.
Almost 71% takedown accuracy.
She's very good at getting your hands up. She's good at closing the distance, and then from there, initiating the clinch and dragging you to the ground, tripping you to the ground. That's gonna be the difference in this fight. Is she able to do that? Caitlin Chukagian's got very good MMA skills all around. She's one of the best fighters in this division. The only problem is she can't beat the like top people. She can't beat Andrade. She lost to Andrade early. She can't beat Valentina Shevchenko. Taylor Santos, that's a tough matchup for her. But other than that, I think she can beat anybody else in the division. Her problem, she's high output. So, I mean, either way right here, I think with either one of these ladies, you're going to get good points, even in a loss, because I think it's going to stay standing, and they're going to go back and forth, and they're going to exchange combinations. So, Chukagian, if she's low-owned, probably being a dog here, she's going to get you some points.
Yeah, she's semi-low-owned, right around 15%.
Okay, so, but she's beat Jennifer Maia, who fought for a title, just came off a win against Amanda Hebos, who's highly touted, has a win over Mackenzie Dern, probably one of the best grapplers in women's MMA. Viviane Araujo, who just fought 2 weeks ago in the main event, beat Cynthia Calvillo, beat Shevchenko, Valentina Shevchenko's sister. So she's got massive wins. She's riding a 4-fight winning streak right now, 5 out of her last 6. I mean, her only knock against Chukagian, she has no power, none, zero. There's non-existent. She can touch you, and it's just like mosquitoes kind of punches. But she's gonna have a high output, and she's gonna be there, and she's gonna keep it. Manafiero in her last fight against Jennifer Maia, she showed some holes. She was hittable. She sometimes comes forward when she's leaping. When you have that leaping style, that's a counterable style, because you're literally just leaving yourself wide open when you leap into the pocket like that. With punchers, you tend to run in to a lot of counter strikes, especially somebody who gets your timing and starts throwing as you're leaping in. And she ran into that against Jennifer Maia. Ate a lot of big right hands, a lot of power shots, but she was able to kind of pull it out late. It was a close fight. Pull it out with the takedowns. And so I'm kind of expecting that. I think she's going to have the edge because she's going to be able to get a couple trips. Caitlin Chukagian, she doesn't have the greatest guard as far as scrambling back to her feet. And it's not dangerous as far as submissions. So if Manafiero can, with those close rounds, you see with a minute left, Manafiero, I guarantee you she's going to be looking for takedowns. So if you're Caitlin Chukagian's corner, right there, you already know that you're going to look for takedowns inside of a minute. Yeah, that fight, it's an interesting one. I'm excited for it for sure. And definitely a good scrap.
Yeah,
could have been a good main event.
Yeah, it absolutely could have been. So now we'll better than the last two.
Yeah.
Now we'll go into Beneil Dariush versus Gamrot. This is where the real fun starts here.
This right here, this is a main event. The bad news about this is it's only 3 rounds.
Yep.
This is, I think, the sleeper on the entire card. If you watch, this is Grappler's Delight right here. Could turn another, again, this is another one that could turn into a stand-up match. But Mateusz Gamrot's got crazy takedowns. This guy lays a finger on you going down to the mat. He's what you don't see a lot in MMA is even with wrestlers, renowned wrestlers coming in, is the execution of the single leg in MMA. Whether your head's inside or outside, you can get, the striking aspect of defending takedowns is a big deterrence with single legs, but this guy is nasty with the single leg. He's got the low ankle pick, he's got the knee tap, he's got the single legs, hike it over your head and drive you to the mat, which it's easier than a double leg. You can actually secure the double leg through the single. Lest we digress, he's got excellent, like world-class Makhachev type wrestling. I mean, that's the level we're talking about with Gamrot. 21-1. His only loss was in his debut to Guram Kutazaladze, who's a killer. We just saw him fight Sarukian, Kutaladze, Ismagulov, Damir Ismagulov. Those 4 killers right there. Like, I think that those guys are like top of the division that nobody's talking about. I mean, like that little round robin tournament right there would just be crazy. And so, but Beneil Dariush, I've been saying for a while, I think he's the dark horse in the division. I thought he had a fight with Makhachev fall through early in the year. That would have been a telling fight. We would have learned a lot about Makhachev in that fight because Beneil Dariush, I think he's going to have the striking advantage. It might not be more technical than Gamrot, but his left hand, he's got more that left hand is nasty. I mean, the way he throws it is literally like a pitcher throwing a fastball, a center fielder trying to gun somebody out the plate from the warning track. I mean, that left hand is nasty. He's got the leg kicks right here are going to be a big difference. If he's able to attack Mateus' legs early, really damage that lead leg, it's going to be hard to get those takedowns. And here's the tell on Mateus. He only shoots from the southpaw stance. He uses both stances, but when he's southpaw, he's going to shoot. That's 100%. Very rarely does he ever shoot from the orthodox stance. So there's always that tell. So if this goes to the ground, I think Mateus could win with ground time, just controlling. But Beneil's, he's going to be dangerous from his back. He's also got stifling top control. It's a battle of top control. Who can get takedowns? I think if I'm Beneil Dariush, I'm going to try to keep it standing, though. I think, takedowns would probably be my plan B. But I'm going to try to keep it standing and try to test that left hand because I think Gamrot can get God on his feet.
Which, I mean, makes sense, too, if Gamrot's only trying to, rush in from the southpaw, that Beneil could have a little leg up there, know when it's coming, and defend it.
And it's gonna look like the Sarukian fight. I think it's gonna look a lot like that. And the difference in that fight, I thought Sarukian won. I thought he had more damage on that feet, but Mateus was those takedowns. He stays on the takedown, stays on him, doesn't give up on him. I don't think this is it. It's going to be tough to get high output out of these guys with the threats of the takedown like that. So they're going to be very selective on the feet because they both are going to be respecting the takedowns of the other one. I give the edge to Mateus. I think these guys fight to a decision. I don't think either one of them is going to get a finish. I'd be shocked if it ended in a finish. But Beneil, listen, he's a dark horse. He's at the top tier when it comes to grappling, especially in the lightweight division. He's definitely got tons of value on him. If he ends up in the top, if he hurts him on the feet, hurts Gamrot on the feet, he ends up in the top position, things get real interesting. Remember, he had Tony Ferguson in that heel hook that was just absolutely nasty. Yeah, and that's 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 like the only person he hasn't finished. Was Tony Ferguson the only guy? That was the only guy that he was able to not get finished against recently. Was Beneil Dariush because he let his leg break basically.
Yeah, he actually didn't finish Diego Fierro right before that too.
Oh yeah, right. And that's a grappler. That was grappler versus grappler. So that's kind of like this. But Diego's more of a very serious threat in the first round. He's a 5-minute man. After that, his gas tank is on nothing.
Yeah, it looks like Dariush was able to just take it down to the ground repeatedly. He had 5 takedowns, 15 attempts.
Yeah, and Diego, the thing, he has a real excellent guard, but his gas tank. So when you have guys like that, they're fine with being on their back. So it's actually a detriment if you're not going to get the finish. You're going to lose the round because you're spending it on your back. But this one's crazy. I don't know who wins this or how, but definitely value on both of them. Take the lower guy.
One thing to note here, ownership wise, this fight is going to be pretty high owned. Almost 50% owned as far as a total ownership here. Dariush is coming in lower owned.
Yeah, I take a chance on Dariush. I think if we run into a scenario where Mateus can't get him to the ground and they're standing, it's a free for all. And I'm giving the power advantage to Beneil Dariush. He's got that one punch. You remember when he knocked the Joe Rogan when they're all falling over each other? Oh, that was him knocking out. I forget the dude's name, but that was him that was knocking him out after he almost got knocked out. And he came back through the left hand, and it was lights out, and everybody went crazy. Beneil's got sleeper power.
Yeah, the meme maker.
The meme maker, yes.
All right, so our next fight here, this is an interesting one. We got Peter Yan versus Sean O'Malley. What say you here? This is an interesting one. Are you going to
know
pick
what?
against your guy?
Back. I want Sean O'Malley.
Oh,
I don't want Makhachev. I want Sean O'Malley.
Oh,
I like the style of the striking. I love Sean O'Malley. I love his style on the feet. He's got long, crispy, fast hands. He's a lot to deal with. I saw holes though. I've seen holes twice. I've seen holes against our guy Cheeto Vera. Cheeto was getting let's be real in that fight. He was having a hard time in that first round where the only loss against Sean O'Malley is to Cheeto Vera, if you don't know, and it was after a leg kick. Cheeto literally landed basically one strike before it went to the ground, and it was a calf kick that rendered Sean O'Malley's legs for the second time in a fight completely useless, and he couldn't even stand up, and he fell on the ground and ended up getting TKO'd. So he doesn't defend leg kicks very well because he's got a long, wide stance, so you can attack him with leg kicks. Peter Yan is an excellent leg kicker. Yeah. I thought in his last fight against Pedro Munoz, I thought he was losing. I thought he was losing the second round too. After the fight, he was saying that he was picking Munoz apart. I didn't see that. It's different when you're in there though. I'll tell you that much. But he was taking a lot of leg kicks. Even when he was checking a lot, he was checking a lot of those leg kicks. But he wasn't really countering off them. He wasn't mounting his own offense. He was like stifled. It was like he ran into a guy that he couldn't walk through for the first time. And it was like, I'm going to have to, like, what do I do kind of thing. Yeah. That's what I read with that fight. I was like, red flags here.
And this is another step up in competition.
This is a massive step up. I mean,
he has not fought anybody like Yan.
Not even close to Yan. I mean, Yan, he Bill Bucknered that last fight against Sterling. I mean, he made unforced error after unforced error. I mean, that was very unlike. He fought with a lot of anger in that fight, overswinging, giving up his back on the takedowns, getting back to his feet, real sloppy. When you get up from a takedown, you have to build up, especially from a guy like Sterling. We'll talk about. You have to turn in to your opponent, get half, full guard, then work the feet on the hips, stuff the head, get back to your feet. That's the route you want to go. You don't want to turn your back and get to your knees and try to stand up. That's how you're going to get your back taken.
And it's interesting too. Yan in all of his fights tries to take people down. Against Sterling in his last one, not a single attempt.
Yeah, and the way and he has different ways to getting it. I think his best takedowns, because he's a Thai fighter. He's from Tiger Muay Thai, like Rafael Fiziev. And what you need to know about Muay Thai is if you ever train with these real guys, these Thailand crews, they call them crews, CUR. They're like senseis for Muay Thai in Thailand. These guys have the nastiest trips. They're so subtle. They can turn leg kicks into trips. It'll look like a leg kick, in the last 10 seconds they'll sweep you. They'll get you with a Thai clinch and kick your legs out from under you. Peter Yan is nasty with the trips. That's how he scores a lot of takedowns. If you go back to the first Sterling fight, he was tooling Sterling. 7
takedowns.
And all of those, almost all of them were just trips and throwing them. He was throwing Sterling all over the ground, and that which led to the weird ending on that one. And so the second fight was just, let's throw that one away because I don't know what the hell happened there. He really gave that fight away. But Peter Yan, I think Sean O'Malley's he's running into that top tier where I think his ceiling is. I don't know if he has the overall MMA skills to be the champ. Maybe he could fight for a title, but I think this is kind of like that plateau. He's already running into that level of fighter that he's going to have trouble against.
You think he's about to be big brothered?
I think he's going to get schooled.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get tooled. And that's and here's the thing. That's if Peter Yan doesn't fight with his ego. And we know now that he's an ego fighter and he will fight with his ego. So if he gets sucked into the O'Malley, everything that comes with fighting Sean O'Malley, the whole show of fighting O'Malley, that he's pushing O'Malley at the weigh-ins. If you saw that, that's never a good look. I don't like that kind of antics before. That just shows me some kind of mental weakness. You're overly emotional. You might do something, especially after the performance he recently had. I'm kind of like a little taken aback. If this stays standing for the whole time, and Sean O'Malley can keep it at his range. His hands are so fast. Yeah. But he's gonna have to. He cannot come out like he did against Pedro Munoz. He's gonna have to put the hands out there.
I think he's gonna have a hard time keeping it range just because he keeps that front leg out.
Yep, and
Yan is gonna break that thing.
and he's savvy at getting inside on you, and he'll cover up. He uses this guard where he'll just cover up straight like this and just march you down, and he'll shield with his leg. So he'll basically shield his way into the zone, basically force his way in. So you can land strikes. He doesn't care. He's going to force his way into so he can get the clinch, so he can trip you, so he can land inside shots on that. If he can control, this will be a range fight. If Jan can control the range and get inside, he's gonna tool Sean O'Malley. Yep. Sean O'Malley, his striking is too long to strike in the pocket. He's a fringe striker. He needs space to operate, to throw those spins and stuff like that. Long strikes inside the pocket don't work very well. And so the short technical strikes of Peter Yan are going to dominate from the inside, Sean O'Malley from the outside, but I think Peter Yan's a better MMA fighter.
Yep, I agree. All right, now we have title fight, co-main event. We got Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah, this is blast from the past. TJ, I go back. I have a weird relationship with TJ Dillashaw because I like TJ a lot, but he's a cheater, and we can't forget that. And he stole my man Dominic Cruz's whole entire style. Even admitted that he copied his style, but he's very good at it, so I'm okay with that. I use Dominic's style all the time. I break that stuff down. He's a unique striker. He can strike in any direction. He's constantly flowing between southpaw and orthodox, and that's really tough to fight against because the power strikes are coming from different angles. How you're going to defend switches in real time, like as he's striking with you. He'll throw a 1-2 step in hook, throw sneaky head kicks. You've seen his fight against Cody Garbrandt. He has sneaky power, short round combinations. I think, I saw some holes. I saw some issues against Sandhagen. He looked slower to me. His footwork didn't look as crisp. That could be because of the long layoff, because of the steroid stuff. But he looked slower, and his defense looked lazy. He was finishing combinations and then just standing there and getting blasted. There were portions of that fight that Sandhagen was lighting TJ Dillashaw up. I think that TJ got lucky on that decision. I think Sandhagen probably won that fight, especially damage-wise.
Dillashaw is saying that he is in the best shape of his life right now.
I saw those pictures.
He looks pretty good.
And that's exactly what he looked like and said when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast just before he popped for all that EPO. We could all look like that if we had that EPO. I don't know. That always bugs me. That's why I never give Bones Jones my top fighter, because of all time he's that guy, but he's a steroid user. He's hiding under the mat to not have to take the test. So
did you see Patty P's talk about Jones?
No.
How crazy he is? That he would just be out doing coke and then go get in the
fight.
ring
and
beat the heck out of somebody.
Run some lady over and then make his way over to the gym.
Yeah.
Do you ever hear the story about how he dodged USADA?
I have not. But Patty P said that's why he says Jones is the best.
Oh, because of that.
Because of that,
Because he's so crazy. Well, you're a fighter.
Yeah.
You have to be crazy to be a fighter, number one.
Yeah, you do.
But he dodged the USADA test by sleeping under the ring in his gym. So the ring had a curtain, around the apron.
Yeah.
And he waited underneath there, and they pretended like he wasn't there. This is like a famous story. And so he didn't have to use USADA. This was all before he popped and all that stuff.
Great.
He's popped multiple times. But TJ is in that realm, so I'll never forget that. It's always going to be a stain on it. It's a tough matchup. I like Aljamain Sterling, but I think he's gotten real lucky in his last couple fights, man.
Agree.
And I hate to say that because he definitely deserved. I threw his original title up there with the 2017 Houston Astros, phony titles.
Yeah.
The bubble champs, the bubble
Definitely
title.
loses some respect for that.
And so I had it up there, but I give him his props the second fight. He did what he had to do. He got the takedowns. He took the back. The second round was definitely a 10-8 round. He was threatening with the chokes. He was landing some shots from the back, and he had Jan's back almost basically the entire second and third round. After that, he lost. The striking is very stiff. He's just very aggressive. So there's no fear in him, but technically he lacks, but he's got really long, dangerous striking. His specialty, he just has a real specialty, and that's taking your back.
Yep.
He likes to work that single leg, and he likes to work his way around back. He keeps you up against the fence, and he works his way to the back. He gets that near side hook in, and then it's curtains. And, we were talking about how Peter Yan wasn't defending those takedowns, and he was giving up his back. We'll see if TJ Dillashaw does the same thing. He's going to have to fight these takedowns off. And Dillashaw, for his career, is an excellent takedown defense. I mean, he's a well-rounded MMA fighter. I was a little surprised to see him as an underdog, but I can see, maybe because it looks like he might have lost a step. So we'll definitely find out. I'm going with TJ on this one. I think this can end in a finish. It could be a drawn out, just, rock'em sock'em, Sterling, winning large parts with takedown and top control. That could definitely be part of it. But I would take a chance on a TJ Dillashaw finish. We've seen Sterling finish once when he fought Marlon Moraes. He got head kicked into oblivion. So it can be done. That's his only loss by a finish. He's 21-3. He's got an excellent record. He's a great grappler. I mean, dang, how many wins does he have in a row?
It just so many by decision.
All decision.
Decision.
He has the one against Corey.
Yeah.
And that was lucky because he got it right off the bat. He got the back and he took it. But other than that, it's decisions because his output on the feet where he on the mat, he's not a ground and pounder. He's more of a submission. He's going to control you. We're seeing a lot of that in this card, so that's why it's kind of tough.
This fight is one of the highest owned on the slate. Actually, it is the highest owned fight. Do you think you have to own this fight?
Well, what makes it is 5 rounds, so you get the extra 2 rounds.
Yep.
So you got. I think there's going to be a part where this is going to get hard for Sterling to get the fight to the ground, just like it did against Peter Yan. Those takedowns dried up, and then it was Peter Yan that was going on the offensive, and I think that can be the case here. I like the output of TJ Dillashaw. I don't know if you're going to get that output from Sterling. Maybe you will. He came out in that first one against Peter Yan throwing crazy combinations, but he blew his gas tank out. So that's why you saw in the second fight he had a completely different approach. He slow played the whole fight. There's going to be times where he's going to have to try and stand and trade with TJ Dillashaw to keep it up. I kind of like TJ Dillashaw's value more.
Yep.
If I'm going to own one of them, but a finish wise. I like TJ. You can get a finish out of it. It's a tough one. This one's a real tough one. But you get the extra 2 rounds. So that's a big. I think
a lot of the time, though, with the extra 2 rounds, the fighters are a little slower to start engaging.
Because they know that.
Exactly. They have more time. They're trying to pace themselves a little bit.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
If the fight finishes within 3 rounds, those extra 2 rounds don't matter anyways.
Yeah, and that's a good point because you'll see that a lot, slow play, especially if you have a guy that's trying to take you down. You're more willing to stay out on the outside and just kind of skirt around to try to pick your shots. That could definitely be TJ Dillashaw's, game plan here. But TJ, this dude is a fiery dude. This guy, he loves to fight. This dude, and they all say this dude is an asshole. Like his training partners, they all hate him. Like when he was over with Uriah Faber at Alpha Male and all those people, they hate this guy. Like because he goes 100% all the time. This guy just wants to hurt people. I think motor wise, just nasty, grimy wise, it's TJ Dillashaw. That's why I'm giving him the nod. But Aljamain Sterling's, he's at minus 200, I think he was. Yeah,
I just can't get behind Sterling just because of that move he pulled. Like ever since that, I just haven't had the respect.
You know what was most telling about that whole scenario was the ref ruined it because the ref told the judge right in front of Aljamain Sterling that it was going to be a disqualification and he'd win. Yeah. And he overheard that. Yeah. Because he was standing right there. You don't tell that.
Well, plus he was like laying on his on the ground like, wait.
He had got blasted by how many shots? And that's the one that like all of a sudden you see people get knocked dead in here and they don't act like that, right? Yeah. Even within a couple minutes they wake up and they're fine, right?
Totally.
This was, I don't like to say somebody faked it, but I'm kind of saying he faked it.
Yeah. So I think pretty much everybody believes he faked that one a little bit.
And that tells you the overall psyche. So if you're in, but he was in a dogfight with Jan the second time, but I think TJ's more of a dog. Yeah. And if this guy could win 3 times, he might probably, take over Dominic Cruz. He's my GOAT for bantamweight, but be the 3-time champion, that's crazy.
Yep. So, all right, now we'll get into the last fight of the night. We have Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev. Man. What are you thinking on this one? This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah,
Islam's taking a big step up here with the competition.
Yeah, that's the knock against Islam is his overall competition faced. That's why I would have liked to see him fight Beneil Dariush, a guy that he's not going to be able to quite bully on the ground.
I mean, his last fight was against a guy that is no longer in the UFC. Did you see that yesterday?
Bobby Green?
Bobby Green.
They cut him?
Out of the UFC.
Man, that's my favorite fighter, y'all.
I know.
That's my favorite fighter. I follow him on Instagram. I know he popped for steroids, and they gave him, I don't know, maybe it's probably because they gave him a long ban, I'm guessing.
That could be.
Because he was up. He didn't know what his fate would be. But, But that was and that was a run-round fight that he was supposed to fight Beneil Dariush in. So he goes from fighting Beneil Dariush to Bobby Green, who I think is one of the best strikers, pure strikers that you can have in the lightweight division. But he just didn't have the ground game. Dan Hooker, he walked through Dan Hooker. I mean, Thiago Moises. I actually watched that fight before writing up everything and kind of looking at this because that was a 4-round fight where Thiago Moises has very excellent jiu-jitsu, very good takedown defense. But he got mauled from the top. He got controlled from the top. Had some submission attempts, but Moises does not have the guard that this dude Charles Oliveira has. Charles Oliveira has 16 submissions in the UFC, the biggest submission fighter of all time. He's finished, I think, every one of his last 11 fights except for Tony Ferguson. Yeah. Tony Ferguson was the only one that he hasn't finished in his last 11 fights. And here's the thing about Charles Oliveira, his striking has gotten better. I mean, as he's gotten bigger, we were talking earlier, this guy's bulked up. Go look at him at 145, and even early on, I think he went from 155 to 45 back to 55. His body has completely changed. I mean, this guy is a nasty dude on the feet. I will say this, with Charles Oliveira and his striking, he almost loses every fight he wins. Yep.
But that's fighters like Gaethje and Poirier and Chandler, guys that have that power.
But it's because of his stance and his style. His style is now march you down, walk straight forward, and he has just a straight, upright, Tong Po from Van Damme kickboxer, straight up style. No head movement. There's no lateral movement. It's just straight forward, straight backwards, and he takes a lot of damage. And he was trading especially with Poirier, he was trading, getting hit with hooks for that step-in knee, for that counter knee to the body, and that knee to the body was destroying Poirier. Those teep kicks up the middle.
Yeah, but I don't think Islam has the stand-up game to compare with Oliveira.
All I ever hear is that Islam Makhachev's kickboxing is like great. We're canceling after the trial period. I ain't buying it. Not yet. We're just window shopping. I'm not buying it. I think he's all left hand. He's got heavy power. He can knock you out for sure. He's got heavy power in his left hand. He's got heavy power in his left leg because he's a southpaw. He doesn't put combinations together. One punch striker. He's going to rely on that. He likes to come forward. He likes to use that Khabib pressure to compress the cage, cut off the cage, box you in, get you up and take you down. He can take you down against the cage. He can take you down in the clinch. He can double leg you. He can level change. He can do all of that. The main difference, because he always gets compared to Khabib, likely he should, is the ground and pound. He definitely does have heavy ground and pound, but it's not nearly as crazy as Khabib's. Khabib is like scary. Islam, I think that's the little difference. He might be a better submission. They're such good submission artists, both of them. Charles Oliveira, I saw him talking yesterday. He says his game plan looks like it's going to be the exact same thing it's been. He's going to march him down, go straight forward. The unique thing about Oliveira, he does not care if you take him down. I'd be surprised, if he ends up against the cage, obviously he'll try to, defend takedowns, but I wouldn't be surprised if, Makhachev gets a nice level change in the center of the octagon. Oliveira just lets him have it. Not even waste energy to try to, because he can scramble. He can use the subs. Listen, subs don't have to be used just to end the fight. They can be used to create scrambles and reversals.
And if he reverses it, Oliveira is hard on top, man. Heavy. He just floats.
And he's got the same top game as Makhachev. He's more submission over position than Makhachev. Makhachev will play that position over submission a lot more. You can go see it with the Moises fight. He was fine just controlling him from the top position, landing intermittent strikes here and there. He's not a heavy, high output fighter. If this does end up on standing for stretches, which it could, I think Oliveira has a more technical combination striking. He uses more weapons. He's like Cheeto. He's going to use his elbows. His elbows inside are nasty. He's going to use his knees. And the biggest thing, when you're facing a guy who wants to level change and get in on your hips, up the middle strikes, uppercuts, knees, snap kicks. When you throw that, and also when you throw your regular hands, you punch like here. You aim for the throat, the bottom of the throat and the chest area. You make them have to go underneath your strikes. If you're just head hunting, it's easier to get under your strikes. Charles Oliveira is going to have all that. He attacks up the middle like nobody, like one of the few fighters in the UFC. So it's going to be interesting to see, how is Makhachev going to set up those takedowns? How's he going to set up those level changes? I don't know if it's going to be so easy as just going in and taking him right down and going right to work. It could be. I think eventually he's going to wear him down and get the takedowns. Charles Oliveira, remember this. Here's the red flag. You ready? His last loss was to Paul Felder. Paul Felder is a killer. not a ground guy, but Paul had a specific game plan. He said, I'm not going to be afraid of his guard. I think even Oliveira was pulling guard in that fight, and Felder ended up on top, blasted him with elbows. His defense to the combination to the submissions and the guard game was striking. And the old adage is, anybody who's trained jiu-jitsu knows that, like, I forget who said it, but you can turn a black belt turns into a brown belt with stripes. You punch him once in the face, he becomes a brown belt. You punch him in the face again, he becomes a purple belt. You punch him in the face again, he becomes a blue belt, and so on and so on. The number one way you take away somebody's guard game is you create damage from the top position. Makhachev is going to have to up his output. I think I see that. Felder was throwing nasty elbows from the top position. Tito Ortiz in straight in the guard, not even worrying about trying to pass and get into trouble, just staying in the guard and was able to pound him out. Oliveira was known as a quitter early on in his career. And he had that. He would tap. He would break in fights. We haven't seen that recently. I mean, he's completely changed. Maybe that could change. Once it's there, it doesn't go away. You can keep the door closed, but it's not ever completely closed. You know, like with Amanda Nunes. She came back and had a great win against Pena, but she still has that. She can still be broken.
Pena broke her.
Oliveira can still be broken, and that's where I'm going with Makhachev. I'm taking him. I think the takedowns are going to be, he's going to chip away. I think it's a late finish for him. I think Charles Oliveira has to get it done early. He can either catch a six submission. The guillotines are going to be there. The arm triangles. The good for a guy that's good double legs. The Darce chokes and the guillotine. Modified guillotines are all natural defenses to double leg takedowns, and he's got a nasty guillotine choke. So he's going to be a threat. Islam's going to have to tread lightly.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting one. I don't think either of them are going to be scared of the strengths from the other side, and they're just going to go at it.
Charles Oliveira is as live a dog as you can get. I think he's plus 145. I could see him getting, even higher than that. I mean, he can finish the fight. He has more ways to finish the fight. He can finish it on the feet, I think, and he can finish it on the ground.
And I think his style just supports a finish a little more than Islam's.
He's got this from listening to him talk. He's going to go straight at him. And he's going to force the fight. This could end very early. Or it's going to be a drawn out. If Islam is able to weather that early storm from Charles Oliveira coming forward and just trying to create damage, and he gets it to the third, it's going to draw out a little, and then like the fourth, fifth round, I think Makhachev's just going to wear on him with the top position. It's too much.
It's hard to handle that much wrestling aggression.
But here's what we can hope for. Khabib Nurmagomedov said the only way he would ever think about coming back is if somebody beat Makhachev again, because he did lose his first UFC or second UFC fight. He got knocked out early in the fight, just got caught. Check hook, knocked him out. If Charles Oliveira submits him or finishes him, we get Khabib. How could Khabib resist not fighting Charles Oliveira? Because now you're talking about Charles Oliveira taking the crown.
Khabib has ducked a few fighters.
He has, and he did, and he was a lot like Mayweather, kind of, picking the right guys at the right time. But I think Charles Oliveira, I mean, I think that you could get him out. I think that because he wants to maintain that number one. I don't think it happens, but it definitely could happen. I mean, Charles Oliveira, don't count him out. Don't count him out. I mean, it wouldn't be a huge shock.
I have to say that I absolutely question the competition. Islam's gone up.
Yep.
Versus Oliveira. Oliveira's faced every dog in this division.
I mean, you're looking at, he did fight Arman Tsarukyan. Go watch that fight. That's another one. That was Arman Tsarukyan. That's how much they liked Arman Tsarukyan. They debuted him against Islam Makhachev. They brought him in specifically for that fight. So that's like his most talented fighter he's fought, and that was like 5-6 fights ago. And he's fought Dan Hooker, but Dan Hooker has no ground game. Bobby Green has no ground game. Thiago did, but it wasn't as dangerous. Drew Dober was a nice little win right there. That guy's a little killer, but yeah, this is by far. I mean, this is like what Sean O'Malley's doing. Yeah, with the leap in competition in a way.
Might even be bigger than O'Malley's.
Because we're talking about this guy Oliveira maybe being the greatest of all time. If he wins this, he's the greatest lightweight of all time. And I'm a huge Khabib guy. So, but you can't argue with this. Makhachev is the only guy in the top 5 that Charles Oliveira hasn't finished yet. So he's beat every other. So if he beats Makhachev, he's beat everybody in the top 5 and finished them all, because he's going to have to finish Makhachev to win this fight.
Yep. Crazy. I agree. I like it. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun one.
Crazy fights.
Any last words?
Man, don't miss this. Get up early. Get your coffee. Get your Starbucks, whatever you need. Get the donuts.
Which that is a good time to remind everybody. The fight is very early.
You had to remind me.
7 a.m. Pacific time start for the prelims. 10 a.m. East
Abu
Coast.
Dhabi.
Yep. Abu Dhabi fight here. Let's go. It's going to be a fun one.
During COVID, that was Fight Island. That was the only sport that was going on. It was here in Abu Dhabi.
Yep. We're going back with possibly the best card of the year.
Yep. And 281 is going to be nasty, too.
281's a good one, too.
We'll be back.
We'll be back for that. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, comment. Tell Chris that you want to fight him. Whatever you want.
We can meet up with the spar. I'm always down for the spar. There's no problem with that. I got plenty of gloves. I got the headgear if you need it.
Yep.
Got the Thunderdome.
With that being said, guys, thank you. We'll see you next time.